LGBT literature. If this is your first week with us, welcome. It's a bit of an odd moment to start, but that is okay. So as I'm kind of like getting going here in our last week, I gotta tell you, it's been a bit of a day. And this evening has been honestly a pretty intense one. This is maybe more than you want to know about me, but that's okay. I'm going to share it before we start talking about the content of the class itself. My oldest child is in 6th grade, and they had a band concert this evening, and so thank goodness for ovens that you can program. So I programmed the oven to start cooking dinner, so it was ready really quickly when I got home from work, and we had dinner fast, and then it was off to our local high school for the 6th grade band concert, and the kids did great. Overall, they just did really fantastic. And then we got home, and there were some gripes that there was no dessert tonight, and then everybody, and by everyone I mean all the kids, got to bed, and now here I am. So I've really been going, like just going for a while now. And before we kind of move into the now, I did want to make sure that you saw that I will be presenting a paper at the Tolkien Society Westmoot at the end of this month. The paper that I'm presenting is Depictions of Masculinity in Cinematic Middle-earth. Now, I thought that between when I wrote this module and when we were coming live, that I might have like the schedule available for Westmoot, but it is not available. So if you'd like to register for the conference, you can come in person. You can also register as a digital attendant. I do know that my presentation is going to be available via live stream. So if you want to come, it would be really cool to see you in real life or virtually as well. And there's a link to register in this module, and I'll be putting that here in the chat. And now moving into our actual readings here for our last week together this evening. We've got our very last chapter, chapter 16, in All Boys Aren't Blue, which is called Don't Know Why I Didn't Call. And one thing that really strikes me in this chapter, and also in the afterword, because we'll talk about that too, we have George Johnson really receiving some of the worst news of his young adult life. And that one of his line brothers from his fraternity has passed away. And I had written this in the module itself, and not as a cop-out, but for me, talking about death is really difficult, and it's not difficult from a place of fear. And I know that we all feel a lot differently about death. It really comes from a place of that death really does transcend the language that we have available to us. Which, then in a venue like this can be really difficult, right? Because we're here to talk, and words are failing me. But one thing that George Johnson says there in the chapter is, and I quote, "That is the lesson of death, though. From death comes rebirth, a rebirth in thinking, in processing, in living." Um, and just the way that he talks there in those last chapter and afterward about being vulnerable in your life, how difficult that can be. And in the enterprise of writing a memoir, especially difficult because you don't really know who exactly you're sharing these bits of yourself with. But I also think that it's worth it. It's worth the try to share vulnerably, and also to make it safe for others to share vulnerably with you, because that's exactly how we will build community. And then we also have here Audre Lorde in the epilogue to Zami, A New Spelling of My Name. And she's kind of arrived, right? She's at the end of her young adulthood. And she is, I guess, what I would describe as a real adult. And without having ever said anything to us as readers, through the course of this particular memoir, she's finished her bachelor's degree and her master's degree, and she is moving on. She's carrying her traditions with her, and then we get the title of the book right there at the end, finding within her a new name, which is, and I quote, Zami, a Carriacou name for women who work together as friends and lovers. And I really just love how that ties in to kind of the discussion and the thought of sharing vulnerably. That the effort to really work together to create something that is better than what we had is really the point of all of this. Now this is, I think, sets a record for my shortest live ever. So I just before I just launch into some parting thoughts, I did want to acknowledge within the module for this week the lack of a journal article. Now I don't know about you guys, but I am tired. I definitely did not have the brain power to do the lifting that reading a journal article would require. And I don't imagine that you do either. So just addressing the lack of that as we are closing out this spring 2026 semester together. But I had the opportunity a little earlier today to speak with somebody who's been participating in this class that I also happen to know in real life. And he asked me if I was doing okay because, we've talked about some really heavy and challenging topics over the course of our 2 memoirs this semester, which I thought was such a such a thoughtful thing. because I certainly am okay. But I think that I am okay because of this class. Just in my own life, there have been some challenging things this semester that I don't necessarily want to talk about here in depth, just to acknowledge that I've been dealing with some stuff. And having this space for the reading and for talking about the reading has just been so helpful to me. And I hope it has been for you as well. Whether you're joining live or you're coming in afterwards, I really appreciate what exists in this little pocket of the internet. And I'm just very grateful to all of you for being along for the ride here. Now, just a couple little... we opened with some housekeeping, and now I'm going to close with some housekeeping as well. Just as a friendly reminder that if you opt to purchase any of the books that we talked about over the course of the last 16 weeks, if you do so through my Linktree, I do get a small commission without any extra cost to you, and I appreciate that. The other thing that I did, and honestly, I'm not really sure how I feel about it, so I would love your input, is to put these modules behind a paywall after 16 weeks. So like the videos will always be up because they're here on Substack and they're on YouTube. But if you want to read those modules, they automatically go behind a paywall after 16 weeks. So if you feel like that's a bad idea, let me know. Because like I said, not really sure how I feel about it. I just thought it was worth a try. Now, I need a break. You need a break. But we will be back together here. And I am just, as ever, closing out by pulling up a calendar. Okay. Yep. So we will be back together for just a 6-week short course on ecofeminism starting on July 13th. So I'll see you then. And always feel free to reach out, right, via email, or if you know me in real life, feel free to talk to me in real life. But I'll be back in your inbox on July 13th, and then honestly, I'm still trying to kind of decide on what would be a good time to go live. I might be trying something new in the summer. We'll see what happens, but if you're subscribed, you'll be the first to know. So I will see you again really soon. Please, please, please take care of yourself and take care of your community. Bye.